Hi Rushab, how are you?
Hey Sanjay, I'm doing all right. How are you? Happy Friday.
Good. Oh, yes. Happy Friday. And I am so glad that we are doing finally after so many reschedules from my side. But I am so happy that we're finally doing this episode and looking forward to discussing quite a lot of things. I think that I have not discussed on the podcast till today. So I'm really excited for this conversation. And let's dive into it right now.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to share my insights with your audience and, hopefully contribute to the growing design community.
You've had quite a journey, Rishabh. I still remember the first time when I met you at the ADP List meetup. You were somebody who were not a designer, right? But you were somebody who hires, who manages like team of 100 designers at MediaMint, and you're the associate director there. And so you wear so many caps in a day when you have to take decisions, review work, speak to designers, right? A lot of things that you do, um, and you've actually transitioned into that role during your time at Deloitte. For 9 years, I think more than 9 years you worked for Deloitte, right?
Close to over 10 years, yes.
Oh wow, close to 10 years. That's an insane amount of time. I mean, if you ask somebody like us, from the new age designers, I don't think I am the new age designer, but yeah, if you ask any of the Gen Z folks out there, would you be, first of all, willing to spend 10 years at a company? So,
Yeah, we got to touch base about that when we get into some of the topics, right, that we have lined up.
right. Right. But quite an interesting journey that you've transitioned from a graphic designer to managing teams, and you've climbed up the ladder that way. So I'm really interested in this journey of yours. So tell me what actually, let's say pushed you to that, or was it a way that you always wanted to take?
Sure. So yeah, like you said, right? I still have a passion for design, right? And I grew up the ranks throughout my career, which is close to about 16 years. At one point in my career, I did make a thoughtful decision that the only path that is going to be sustainable over a long time is going to be somebody who understands design, but is also a bridge between meeting organizational KPIs and growing a design team. So that combination is very niche, in my opinion, right? You will not find too many folks who have a blend of these two skills, which are north and south. That's possibly going to be the theme of the podcast that we are doing today. Looking forward to add more insights.
Right. So one small question here. So when you said, okay, you've realized that at some point in your career that it has to be a blend of these two things. So that transition, I'm sure you would have taught yourself so many things during that transition. Can we talk a little bit about that transition?
It started off very gradually, Sanjay. Let me spend a little bit of time telling you about my days of being a designer, right? So I started designing somewhere in 2012, and at that point of time, I used to design a lot of these ads for Yellow Pages, right? So gone are those days, right? And then somewhere around that time, so I was working for an organization called R.R. Donnelly,
Hmm.
which was back then known as Office Tiger, and this was in Chennai. One fine day, I get a call from Deloitte asking them, if I want to join them as a designer. And my initial impressions were yes, and I was intrigued by, just by the thought that Deloitte is giving me a call, right, to join them. I started working for them as a designer for about 2 years, and a lot of work that we were doing for Deloitte was strictly related to their marketing collaterals, right? So their presentation decks, a lot of their sales sheets, posters, standees, and all of that, right? And during this time, we didn't even know what UI UX was, right? Because we did not really have smartphones back then, right? So the iPhone was just about to launch, and there was no broad classification between what graphic designing is and UI UX was. Think of it today, had I knew what UI UX has to offer, I might have been in a different career altogether. So about 2 to 3 years, spending time into design, Deloitte actually gave me a good opportunity to interact with some of their top brass of folks, right? So I'm talking about partners, directors, and these conversations were more in line with getting a creative brief from them.
Right.
What kind of deck that you want to prepare, right? What do you want us to do with the color theme? Who is your target audience and things like that. During these conversations, what we now call as KPIs, right? Those were my initial days where I got introduced to all of these terms. What are deadlines, right? What are AHTs? So the more I conversed with these top leaders in Deloitte, I felt I was able to relate to the organizational mandates, the KPIs, and what the business has in store for their clients, right? And that slowly transitioned into the junior management roles, right? Where you were not expected to design, but you were expected to talk to these high profile members and then delegate work to the best resources that you have. That was the transition period, right? So that was more like like I said, it was a very gradual transition. It took me about 2 to 3 years to figure out that, am I still okay, completely stopping, design and, be someone who is going to get these briefs and then allocate these tickets to the best designers that you have in the team.
So, do you ever feel like going back to designing, or do you ever feel like, finding yourself sitting in your office and feel like, okay, I feel like designing? Do you ever say that to yourself?
I still do design, but I don't really design for the clients anymore. I design for the org. I still design my own presentations, some milestone projects that we are working on. I still design for those things, and all the great work around us, which UI UX industry has got in store for us. I cherry pick a lot of things, the usage of hierarchy, right? The usage of layout, color contrast, and, all these UX laws, right? Hicks laws, and, all of those things. I find it fascinating that, people just limit that only to the UI UX creatives that they are working on. But the truth of the matter is some of these laws or some of the UI UX elements that you use for building apps or websites, you'll be surprised by how much you can use them in your graphic designing or your video designing creatives, right? I'm connected with, the great folks at ADP List as well, members like yourself. There are so many SMEs around us. I have always been someone who has a keen learning observation, right? Something that I might learn from a workshop, right? Or something that I might learn during a podcast like this. I try to make it a point to include that in the work that I am doing, right? Long story short, I don't get to design as much as I want, but whenever there is something that I don't really have dependency on anyone else, right? So for example, we have a great team of designers here at MediaMint, right? So, and we have our own portfolio, the storyboarding of the portfolio, the brainstorming of, how the portfolio needs to be like. So all that is something that I like to take the lead on, and then share those ideas with the designers.
Interesting. Good balance, I'd say, that you've created for yourself. That so it's really, I think somebody like me, yeah, even I like doing both of them. So it's a good balance to create for yourself that you've done.
Yes, and I must admit that I'm a Libran, and Librans are known for having a balance of pretty much everything that they do in their lives.
Fascinating. Fascinating. All right. So when you've gone through that journey and now you're sitting on the other side of the table, you have 100 designers working. When you see these young designers who are there at MediaMint or in your usual interactions, outside of your company as well, you interact with quite a lot of designers. What do you think these people, the designers, the young designers, should do early in their careers? What kind of jobs should they look for?
That's a great question. It's something that I highly recommend the modern age designers because of so much information that we have, right? Thanks to the internet. I mean, there are so many sources. Podcast video, podcasts like yourself, right? The one that you're running is to make use of all that information at the best that you can, but do not forget that ultimately whatever you're doing is with the core purpose of landing in a job, right? And if that is your core goal, then you need to reverse engineer. You should start from going to job portals, finding out about what kind of jobs are in demand, what kind of skills are in demand, and then reverse engineer and then align your resources. I also feel that all the tech around us, we are in this modern day AI world as well, right? Almost every other day we come across new techs, new tools. Good to know about it, but answer that question not only for yourself, but also for the org that you're working for. Is that going to help me a business goal? Is it going to have a tangible impact on the organization? If yes, full on. I mean, learn that tool or learn that tech by heart, but do not spend time or getting overshadowed by all these tools, right? So I think the modern day designer needs to grow out of this tool driven mindset, knowing Figma, After Effects, Premiere, grow out of the tool driven mindset. The mindset that you need to have is a skill driven mindset, right? It has to start from skills that you have. There is a difference between knowing a tool and knowing a skill. An analogy that we can think of is, driving a car. And you can drive a car, but how you drive a car, what speed do you need to change gears, right? So that's the skill. I think that would be my recommendation to the designers who are either looking to get into new jobs, looking to switch careers. Do not have a tool-driven mindset. First, focus on your skills. Do a reverse engineering. Go to job portals. Find out what skills are in demand, and then adapt yourself.
So this also underlines the fact that the students, the people who are applying, should also understand the organization that well, so that they should figure out, okay, what is it that the organization needs and how they can add value, right?
That's true. So, for a organization like ours, right, we work with leading brands. I mean, some of them are also a part of the Fortune 500 list, right? In a way, the requirements of these organizations that we work with is not very expansive. So, they would outsource not all of their creative capabilities to another organization. It could be a percentage of it, right? And the point that you had made earlier, right, about, I mean, sticking to an organization for a very long time, 9, 10 years, that is also a part of what the decision making part of the organization that you're currently working with. A lot of these Gen Z designers, right, once you restrict them to just do those 5-10% of the work that they are supposed to do and not to venture into anything else, that might also be a reason for attrition. I think when you get into management and leadership, the culture that you build in the team is, going to be crucial for having anyone extend or, work for an organization for about 9, 10 years, right? It's, not only about the job or, the skill set of the designer, but the culture that you have, right, in the organization. In MediaMint, we have a fascinating culture. We do a lot of learning and development, right? We spend a lot of time upskilling designers as well. People who know a skill, share those skills or those information with other designers. So ultimately, our upskilling ratio is fantastic, right? If there is somebody else who's on PTO and I don't have anybody else to do his or her work, that's a situation that possibly never happens, right? There is always someone who's there to backfill for that person, right? This is one of the reasons where people don't want to leave the organization. As long as, I mean, obviously, I don't want to talk about appraisals and all of that, but just from a learning and development standpoint, right? It's such a vast field, right? Design is such a vast field that it's almost impossible to understand and know everything about what design has to offer. But at the same time, right, designers are a different breed altogether, right?
Okay.
It's fascinating what they think like.
Right. So about that, what designers think like, I want to pick your brains on, from your perspective when you're sitting, let's say, like I said, on the other side of the table. So I want to understand what managers seek from designers or in designers. So, I mean, in a team, right? There's always a team in a company. So, what are managers looking for?
All right, let me start by giving you an analogy. All right, so imagine that there is a gardener who's working in a community, right? They must communicate with the other gardeners, that is, team collaboration, and then also be proactive enough to understand which plants need attention. For any manager who is possibly working for a corporate and heading a design team, that is one thing that the manager will always look into a designer, whether he or she is proactive. I mean, it's a very cliched saying, but proactiveness is something that can break or make your performance appraisals, your scorecards, whatever you want to call it, in the organization that you're working for. Apart from that, the ability to understand what client KPIs are, ability to translate the client's requirements into impactful designs, good communication skills, great collaboration skills, and showing measurable results that contribute to business goals. Just to break it down a little bit more, if there is a design project that you're handling, and which turns out to be a gold mine for the organization, even if you've designed a few social media posts for that particular client, but if the client is coming back and there is a metric called as CSAT, right? So CSAT stands for customer satisfaction, right? Usually organizations send CSAT forms to their clients and ask them to rate. Assume that CSAT score is anywhere above 9.5 on a scale of 10. If that CSAT score is much higher, irrespective of the kind of effort that you put into design, your manager is always going to be thrilled about your presence in the team. So in short, what I'm trying to say is your passion for design, salute to that. Your knowledge about tools and skills that we spoke about, salute to that. Only and only if it's making an impact to the business. And I'm not talking about freelancing, but talking about designers who work for MNCs or corporates.
It's interesting at the same time coming from designer's point of view. For them, it is the brief that is given to them, right? For example, if they're working on a campaign, let's say an ad campaign, where they have to create social media posts, like you said. So I'm going to do a little bit of an illustration here of whatever we were talking about. So, like, I am a designer who I have to work on a social media post for XYZ client, and you being the manager, right? So if I am doing the best I can creating these graphics, how do I know that if this is going to impact that business? From my side, I am doing what is given to me. Okay, I just have the brief in front of me. So how do I make sure that I go the extra mile here?
Very simple answer to that. Again, I talk about KPIs. All of these campaigns that we run, more or less, they have a timeline associated with that, right? So chances are your manager is going to tell you that, hey, I want you to create one social media post in about 30 minutes. That's good enough. Creating a social media post in about 30 minutes is good enough. If you are, the proactive piece, which I mentioned earlier, right? If you are able to create two options, option A and option B, package it smartly to your manager, saying that, hey, this is something that the client has asked and create exactly the way it is, but I noticed a few flaws. Maybe the picture wasn't great, right? Maybe the fonts that the clients use, those were not great. Maybe the layout was pathetic, right? You've created option B, which is phenomenal. It's probably 2x better than option one. Package that to your manager, ask him to send the files to the client, right? Most likely than not, right? The client is going to come back and it's going to be thrilled. Instead of giving one option, you've given them two options in the same 30 minutes of time, which made a significant impact to your relationship with the business. The client is possibly going to come back again and again to you instead of looking for other options, right? And bear in mind, even as designers, it's a competitive industry, right? It's not that you are the only player in the game. There are multiple options. These small initiatives that you will make as a designer is going to help you and the organizations as well.
Interesting. Very well explained. I really like the analogies that you're drawing, the driving one, the gardening one. It's really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
I think there's very good storytelling going on here. And I want to move to the next question here. Again, a big one. Why do you think should designers move to a leadership role? And I know there are benefits to it. Yes. I also want to talk about the downsides of it that it might have.
So let me start with some metrics, Sanjay. Obviously, various sources where you get information from. But there was this article that was published on Toolist, which was also part of the LinkedIn community page that has. There were 4 insights, all right. So actually, 2 insights which were broken down into 4. The first of which was, and this is data until 2022, the average age of a designer is about 40 years, and the average age of a manager is about 25 years.
Wow. Okay.
This is fascinating, but the other piece that actually draw my eye was 30% of those designers who are aged at about 40 years on an average, right? They leave the organization in about 1 year. And 2% of those managers, which have an average age of 25 years, they leave the organization in 1 year. The point that I'm trying to make is, one is, I mean, from these metrics, you can understand that, age doesn't necessarily have to do with your designation, right? You can become a manager even at the age of, say, 25, 26. Right?
Yeah.
The other piece is, chances of you leaving the company, and this is a benefit for the company, for the organization, is much lower. Like I said, only 2% of the people leave the organization in about a year. All right, so let's talk about the pros first, right? Why should you consider a leadership position? Again, possibly I'm just going to draw 3 examples. I'm going to ask you, to tell me, what is common. So what I'm going to
Okay.
do is give you the names of 3 personalities. Just tell me something that you find common in all these 3 well-known personalities. Mr. Abdul Kalam, Saurav Ganguly. I don't know if you know her, but she is very well known in the entertainment industry. Her name is Nandita Das.
I've heard the name. Yes.
All right. So Mr. Abdul Kalam, Saurav Ganguly, and
Nandita
Nandita Das.
Das. These are 3 different personalities, actually.
There's something which is common.
Thinking about it, because Abdul Kalam, yes, definitely teaching is something that really stands out about him.
Let me make it easier for you.
Yeah, make my life a little easier, please.
Something that is common in all of them, Sanjay, is any point in their careers, they were an SME in their fields. And then towards the later half of their career, they were in a leadership position.
Yeah.
Relate that to a designer, which is, the subject matter expert, and the final designation, which is of a leader, right? So Saurav Ganguly, obviously, I mean, the skill or the talent, right, that he had was great batting. He eventually went on to lead the Indian cricket team. So is with Mr. Abdul Kalam. Great scientist, went on to become the president of our country. Nandita Das, great actress, she goes on to produce films, right? The reason why I brought up these 3 examples was to first instigate the thought of belief in designers, that gone are those days where organizations would only hire MBAs, people from, say, ISBs, IIM, to take up the leadership positions. I think, in my opinion, there are 4 broad categories why designers should take up leadership roles. First is pretty obvious. It is growth. It's the most definitive career path for an individual who is a designer. If not today, this is going to come and haunt you. Why you did not make that decision, right? The other benefit is for the organization who don't have to hire externally. They'll possibly want to identify someone within the team who can take up that leadership role. The employee's tenure also is extended as a result of this. Imagine you got promoted to an associate manager or a junior manager, whatever it is. I mean, obviously, you feel motivated and you want to stick around with that organization, right? Better compensation, that's pretty obvious. And last but not the least, you get exposed to new skill sets. As a designer, possibly you never interacted with a client. You never spoke about pricing. You never spoke about SOWs.
Yeah.
You get exposed to that. So that's about growth. The other area is from a visibility standpoint. Being a leader in your org will increase your visibility, I'm sure, by about 2x. You're going to meet a lot of people in the organization, maybe from other departments, possibly did not get a chance to meet them or learn from them or, have that network with them because, you were a designer. Your personal brand will take a leap. I mean, imagine that post on LinkedIn saying that designer A got promoted to a design manager. Personal brand goes up. There is a chance that you'll represent your org at the client level or possibly at a bigger design forum as well. You might not see a lot of designers getting nominated for design exhibitions, conferences, or something like that. You might find any senior person in that organization gets nominated for those forums. So that's about visibility. I think the third category would be network. Your network will include, I mean, the top brass of the org, right? You might be having your lunch with a VP, dinner with a partner, and you learn a lot about how the business fundamentally works. That combined with your knowledge of design is very niche, like I mentioned earlier, right? So you're almost like a Kohinoor, very difficult for organizations to find. I think only other reason that I feel that designers should consider taking up leadership roles is because of demand. So I'm a PMP certified employee as well. The Project Management Institute, which offers these certifications, they expect about 22 million project management jobs by 2027.
Wow, that's an interesting number. Wow.
So there is going to be demand. Also, I mean, something that I'm still not convinced though, but there is obviously a lot of anxiety in the design industry about, with this whole AI evolution, how many jobs are going to be sustainable? Are things going to be automated or not? I have the utmost respect for all designers in all design industry, but I think we have to be practical as well. There are certain jobs such as leadership or managerial roles that need a lot of human thought associated with that. Call it future proof as well. So, that could be another reason why designers can consider going up the ranks, right, into the managerial roles.
Very valid points. I'm sure this is going to help the designers who are now listening to this conversation. There will come a time in the career path, because I also hit it a while ago. I hit it. And it felt like, okay, what is it that I want to do next? Because this is not it. And I have to outgrow myself. I have to do it. And then there comes this friction of, okay, I have to manage this, I have to do that, I have to do this. But then eventually you become that. That's what I've seen in my own journey. That now the things that I was thinking about back then, that ये नहीं होगा मुझसे, ये तो नहीं होगा, मुझे बस creative काम करना है, right? Now it's become second nature to me that by default I'm thinking like that. But the transition has to be there, and I think there's a learning curve for everybody.
And Sanjay, make no mistake that I'm trying to put across a point saying that designers cannot sustain their careers, right? Or it's I mean fine, right? If you have a passion for design and you don't really see yourself as a manager or a leader, I mean, good luck to you, right? What I'm trying to do is let your audience know that there is genuine demand for organizations that want a design skill set with a blend of management and leadership skills, right?
Right.
Do consider this option, and by no means it's a easy skill to develop. Take up small initiatives, like I said. I mean, possibly start sending simple reports to your manager saying that these are the tasks that I completed in a day. This is the time that I took to complete the task. These are the categories of tasks that I completed. Learn a little bit about reporting, a little bit about analytical skills, right? Knowing about KPIs, what we spoke about earlier, and then see if you're able to connect the dots. If yes, then take up smaller responsibilities in your team. Possibly conduct a learning workshop, having all the metrics that we spoke about, present it in a dashboard, show to your manager, right? Because see, this is what we do in our day-to-day lives, right? We are surrounded by metrics, dashboards, a lot of client conversations. We also do a lot of quarterly business reviews as well. Get into calls, where we have to negotiate deadlines. We get into calls where there are escalations. So these are skills which need to be learned. Collaborate with a mentor and possibly have an option B for your career. Maybe 2 years down the line, that passion for design goes down, or you're possibly not at the level of the other designers. You'll have an option B to rely on.
So now that we have talked about the positive part and all the things that can work for a designer if he he or she considers moving to the leadership roles. Now, is there anything negative? Because everything I feel has a positive and a negative side to it. Now, what could be the possible negative thing that can be there if a person does this, if a designer does this?
I'm going to give you another analogy, right?
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
Hopefully, the audience relates to it. We are all so proud that India won the T20 World Cup. So, kudos, Rohit Sharma. And so the catch of the tournament, the one that Surya Kumar Yadav, Sky 2.
Yeah,
Assume Surya Kumar Yadav is a leader. He would have dropped the ball. Right? He would not have caught the ball, but he would have dropped it. The entire nation is going to blame him. If Kai would have caught the ball, maybe India would have won the World Cup. I mean, thankfully he did, and we did win the World Cup. That's the first point I wanted to make, right? The downsides of taking up a leadership role.
right,
Remember that anything goes wrong with the team, you are the one who's going to be blamed.
right,
It's not going to be like finger pointing, but it's going to be very obvious. It's because of you things didn't work out. The other downside is you're going to have people management responsibilities as a few members in your team. Are going to be very disappointed because you either did not approve their leaves, simple things like that. On the higher things that have a very big impact is, could be because of appraisals, right? Imagine you had a very big team and a lot of members are unhappy with, how the appraisals were conducted. They're going to tag you as someone who had a very negative impact on how their appraisals were. Those are the downsides. What else? I hate to see this, but chances are you wouldn't really have a fixed schedule, and it's nothing to do with my organization, right? I'm not trying to hint that my opinions relate to the organization that I work with, but that's the nature of the job. You might respond to an email at about 2 o'clock in the morning, get into a call at about 6 in the morning. You never know. If you are someone who wants to be in a very comfortable journey, comfortable environment, is very happy with whatever you're doing. I don't think management and leadership is a career that you should think about.
quite a bit of knowledge here in this episode, and which was not done in any other episode, 100% sure. And I am really glad that this discussion happened, because in design land also we have a job board. Now, see, so many job postings, so many internships getting posted there. People, designers are looking for internships, are looking to change, switch, or first job as a designer, because सीजन वही है, graduates हो गए हैं तो अभी ढूंढना है, right? So I'm 100% sure that this is definitely going to help all of the people who are now looking for internships or jobs. And thank you for doing this, because coming from you, being at that position as you are, and heading a team of 3-digit number team, this information comes from a very practical standpoint. And this is very valuable for all the designers also, because all the other episodes I've done, we talk about portfolios, how should it be, how it should be like, and what kind of projects, etc., etc., which is important, yes. But this point of view is definitely very, very valuable. And thank you for sharing all this insights here on this podcast, Rushab, today.
My pleasure, Sanjay. Good luck to the designers who are looking to get into jobs. I'm sure you're going to put out my LinkedIn handle as well whenever this goes live. Happy to assist anyone who's looking for help.
Definitely, I'm going to drop all the links, your ADP mentorship links as well, in the description, so that they can directly reach out to you. And if they need any mentorship regarding the hiring process or anything, designers, they can directly reach out to you. Thanks again for doing this, Rushab. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Sanjay.